So I'm going to take you through how to alter some books, do some mixed media techniques, and in particular in this video we're going to kind of explore the theme of gratitude. So we're using altered books as a place to hold, store, and cultivate gratitude. And all the things that you might need are in the description of the video below, and I will talk a little bit more about older books throughout the process, but we're going to just jump in. So grab a book. My book's got some really interesting pages in it, so just notice what your book's got. And we're going to start with making a pocket. So to make a pocket, we're going to start with folding one corner into the center line, into the spine of the book. And then what I want to do, just like a pocket, like think about putting your hand in a pocket on your pants, we need to seal some of the edges so that it becomes a pocket. You can do that with a glue stick. If you're doing it with a glue stick, you're going to have to wait a little while for it to dry. You could use some tape. I've got masking tape, but if you've got some nice washi tape, which is paper tape, it's Japanese, or that's where it's kind of originated from, I believe, you could do that. So we're going to seal the top, the bottom and the side. Doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, I don't really work with the whole perfect thing. I really just like to get things sort of done. Okay, so that's the first pocket. And you can store little artworks in there, little keepsakes. You can store, little things that you want to hold on to. It's a little leaf that I stitched. Photos, recipes, things that you would like to keep and hold on to for safekeeping, which is why I kind of love altered books. They're a place to contain things. And if we're going with the theme of gratitude, a little pocket of gratitude where you can kind of store things or plant seeds for gratitude. And then we can also decorate onto the actual page and adorn it. And I think I'm just going to have a little doodle, a little scribble. With some oil pastel. And this might be a bit of a prompt for you to kind of jump in and have a scribble it out. Like, what if it didn't matter what it looked like? It was more about the feeling. I've kind of picked a color that feels very like loving, and I've just spotted actually the word love. I love you on my page. I want you to know I love you. This is why I love working with altered books, because things just pop out, you know, that are meant to find you. Grab a peg or two or a bulldog clip. This is nice for like holding down the pages while you're working, so you're not having to navigate all that. Now, because I'm using oil pastels, I'm going to bring in a little bit of watercolor. And you'd be surprised, it really depends on your pages, but you'd be surprised what the pages can hold. And so let's do that, let's be surprised. I'm gonna go over the top of my scribble. And you notice I'm not prompting too much around the thoughts and the feelings of this. We're just kind of like having a play in the pages. You know, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but like when you're having a hard time in life, people often say like, oh, you know, write a gratitude list, 3 things that you're grateful for. But if you're having a bit of a rotten time, that could be a bit of a stretch. So the reason I've kind of crafted the gratitude practice in altered books is that it's not about coming up with 3 things, and it's not about using your thinking mind to kind of scrape the barrel of your mind to figure out what you're grateful for. we're going at it or entering via a different way. And sometimes just making time for ourselves and space to be creative or to have some inner reflection time can be something to be grateful for on its own. Because I think gratitude's different for everyone, and it has a lot to do with how you were brought up in terms of what you think and feel about that. Yeah. But certainly it can be hard if you're not having a very good time in life, or you're having a rough patch to to find the things to be grateful for. It can feel a little bit invalidating to yourself. All right, that's an example of a pocket. Now that's wet, so I'm going to let it dry, and I'm going to show you more pockets. But before I do that, I sort of want to hop a little bit to a different activity that you can do in the Altered books, just because I'm noticing some words pop up to me on my page. So if you're noticing this too in your book, you're noticing some words jumping out to you, that's a little pull from the creative part of you that's saying, oh, there might be something there. So now I'm going to take you through a process that's called block out poetry. Sometimes it has some other names, but I like calling it block out because the idea is that you're picking certain words on the page that jump out to you and letting a spontaneous poem or sentence or story kind of come out. So yeah, block out poetry, block out story. There's a little story in here, and then there's an invitation for you to pull it out. So this is one of those things where we don't want to overthink too much. I've got a really nice just fine liner. You can also use like a Sharpie. You could use a crayon, a pencil. And then you trust you in what you need and how you would like to move through the page of text. But I sort of just like to squint my eyes a little bit and see whatever jumps out to me. So let's do that. Let's go for, let's say like eight words. And you can, of course, make up your own. You're just going to find your way through just any words that are feeling sort of, yeah, a feeling like they stand out. Could be phrases as well. You might come up with a couple of poems on there. I've definitely done more than 8, but as I look through it, there's so many. So many nice moments. Okay, and now the blocking out part. And you can do this in any way. So you could use watercolor, you could use a Sharpie and block out all the space around it. There's a lot of creative ways to do this, and there's a lot of different ways we can be working with Altered books. So I'm only showing you a few, but the idea is that the prompt takes you somewhere where you discover something. So I found another line I like. It's very Moorish, this activity. I wonder what you're finding. Okay, but I'm gonna like actually continue on my scribble. I'm gonna scribble around the phrases. So now we're blocking it out so that we can see the messages coming through. And they don't have to make sense. They don't have to make sense. It could be a word salad, but we just kind of let something happen that we don't try and control too much. So I did scribbles, but now maybe I might do some kind of marks around the page, kind of weaving in between some of the phrases. You could be using any mark making tools. You could be using watercolor, you could be using acrylic paint to make marks or block things out. Of course, you just need to let that dry. You could be using markers, pencils. What else could you use? I love a fluoro pastel. Obviously, the oil pastels, when you use watercolor on them, they act as a resistant medium. And if you haven't done that before, I do have a video about like watercolor tech, like different things that you could try out on my YouTube channel. I'll link it here. So you can go have a look at that if that's new to you and you want to explore more watercolor techniques that you could potentially bring in. Now what color am I going to choose? It's a good time to check in and see how you're feeling. Sometimes you might be making art and you might be like, oh my gosh, I don't like that. You might notice those sort of like critical thoughts coming up. And you just notice them, but then let's go back to the task a little bit. And the task is just to see what happens. You can work however you like. You can work very carefully if you like. I tend to just work fast. It's my style. Not too precious. Okay, and then I've got a little poem there that's popping out of the page. So I wonder what you've discovered in your page. And there could be multiple poems or stories on the page too. Alright, again, I'm going to have to let that dry a little bit. So I'll let that dry and then I'm going to come back and we'll do a little bit more on pockets. Alright, it's getting there in drying. It's a cooler day today, so depending on your weather too, it can take a little longer for things to dry, or they can dry quicker. Depends on the paper quality too, depending on the book you're working in. And actually that's a nice thing to notice too, just like the color of the paper, like what it feels like, the sounds it makes. We're going to do another pocket now. So for this one, get a page and you're going to cut it. For this one, we'll say in the middle. As we move along, you're going to start to realize you can cut it anywhere you like. But we've got to start somewhere. I've got to ground this. So now I'm going to flip one page to one side and the other to the other side. And I'm going to secure the pockets. This is where it gets a little tricky to see. So before I secure them, I want to show you a little bit. I'm actually just going to have a little play on the page. I'm going to make a little garden. And maybe you do this too. Maybe you make a little intuitive artwork on one of your pages. My strategy is here to just make this a little bit easier to see. Oh, but maybe there's some beautiful flowers that are growing here too. Alright, so now you can see there's something behind there. Again, I'm going to seal my pocket on 2 sides. So I'm bringing those 2 pages together and I'm just sticking my tape around it. I could go back over my tape with like a Sharpie and decorate it and adorn it, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to move pretty swiftly through most of this. Alright, so there's an example of a pocket. So I could put this little card in there, a little thank you card. Aha, the pocket. Alright, cool. And I might name this pocket the thank you pocket, where I collect all the thank yous. So you might name your pockets, you might give them a bit of a theme. And if you're working with the gratitude theme, and obviously you probably already gotten onto the fact that you could have anything or no theme at all. We're going to get on to the next pocket. So this time, now obviously we've sealed it this way, and you could seal it that way and have like a anti-gravity pocket. Just gonna color this in a little bit so you can see where I'm working. Okay, but this time we're actually going to seal it top and bottom. And what I want to do is cut out a little opening so that I can see where my pocket, I might keep that too, I'll stash that there. So I can see where the opening to my pocket is. Now you choose what's right for you. And I'm going to seal it top and bottom. And I have some kind of pretty washi tape. However, I don't know how it will go with the oil pastel on the page. It may not hold very well. I sense I could be correct about that, but that's okay. Just wanted to show you that it can look very sweet. And maybe I'll stash this little wings patch in there. So these are like some other examples of pockets. I've got this pocket. And there's so many different ways that you can integrate pockets, make mini pockets in your book, but those are probably the standard ones to start with, to just spark that imagination and creative problem solving. So those are pockets, and we've also been through the block out poetry, which again you can apply anywhere you see something, and make a tiny little poem that, you know, dances between the pages. Next we're going to move on to some slow stitching. And if you have any images in your book, these can be nice to interact with. But I say find a random page. I'm just going to pick that there and grab your stitching supplies. So embroidery cotton, and a needle, and let's thread that up. If you're new to stitching, I do have some videos with lots of like kind of open-ended stitching aspirations, and also some that go over specific types of stitches. But for today, all we're going to do is some running stitch. And the prompt that I'm going to give you here, I'm just going to peg a little bit here to tame my wild pages. There we go. is to take your needle for a little wander around your page. Now, running stitches where almost like we're making little dashes. Like, think about if you're making dashes when you're making letters. It's the same as that. And I might be able to get up a little bit closer. Let me see if I can. Just so you can see what I'm doing. Not that it matters. The prompt here is to take your needle for a walk. So take a walk on the wild side. Take a walk as you like, fast, slow, short steps, big steps, but wander around your page, almost like your needle is a little ant and it is exploring the page. And I don't know if you've ever watched ants wander around, but they look like they've got a lot on their mind as they're walking. They often go in loops. And this is a good moment, particularly with slow stitching, which is what we're doing here, is to just slow everything down. There's no rush. There's no outcome. Just a chance to be and get into the repetitive nature of the stitching. Might be having that moment where it feels a little too unbounded, like, oh, but where do I go, what do I do, what's the point? That's okay, just be there. Just notice that that's coming up for you, that I would like a little bit more structure or prompting, because I feel that maybe I don't know what I'm doing. I might need a bit more help or support. You might even ask yourself, you know, where in my life do I feel a bit unsupported? Do I feel like I don't really know and I wish I knew more? Or you might be having the experience of experiencing a bit of freedom, a bit of fun. There's no rules. It doesn't have to look good. It doesn't have to look like anything. Maybe you're just enjoying the repetitive movement. Noticing the sounds that you're creating in collaboration with the needle and thread and paper. And perhaps there's frustration because this medium, this surface of paper, behaves very differently to other fabrics that are soft and woven. Noticing all of those things and coming right back to where you are in this moment. Now, if you cut a little bit of your paper out for the pocket, Or maybe you have something that you'd like to stitch into the page. This is a lovely opportunity to add it back in some sort of way. How you do that, I don't know. But work on bringing something back into the page. It could be an item, an old artwork or something around your space. See what you can integrate into the page. What can you bring back in? What can you hold? What can you mend and tend to in this moment? This is a nice moment just to notice how you're feeling in your body. Sometimes we can get really close to our work and get really tense, so it's a good time to notice if your shoulders are hunched. Maybe you drop your neck back or to the side, whatever's right for you and your body in this moment. Maybe you take a nice breath and let the jaw relax, the lips relax, the eyes relax. Wherever you are is so fine. Now, finishing off, you could tie off on the other side. I like to just leave a little tail. I feel like it's a clue that leads me back into the book and the page, because with altered books, it's like there's little stories everywhere, right? Now you can incorporate the stitching into other spaces, like into the pages we've done with pockets. So I'm just going to do a little demo of that so you can see how that might go, and maybe you join me too. Because when we're working in mixed media, we really do mean mixing. So like having an experiment with everything, like what happens when and what would happen if. I might remove this so I don't stitch into it. And I'm going to stitch around the edge, my pocket. And the invitation here is to slow down. It's not a race. I do a lot of workshops and I see sometimes people rushing, and it's not that they're actively choosing that. It's just that very often we are encouraged to rush and get as much done as we can. But what if we catch ourselves in those moments and go, oh, I might be rushing. I noticed that just in that moment that, yeah, I felt a little bit like I was rushing. And there are consequences to rushing, and I noticed that I'm very soon probably going to prick my finger, because that does happen a lot when I rush with my needle. And it's a nice thing to catch yourself in a pattern, isn't it? Sometimes we can be asleep in patterns that we're acting out. And sometimes the patterns can give us very sharp reminders that we're in them. And coming back to those techniques, it's just like building up these different layers. And it's very human, isn't it? They're a little bit hokey pokey, they're a little bit unfinished and imperfect. And that's very human, isn't it? And wouldn't it be nice to just embrace that humanity and let it be? And of course, if that feels too much, you can always just finesse it as you like. Always up to you. Alright, so there was some stitching. Stitching can be used to explore, it can be used to hold things together. It can also be used to seal things. So you could seal a whole bunch of pages that are private for you. And that is the stitching part. Now I'm going to shift into a bit of mark making and kind of being in the body a little bit. So pick another page, it might be the same page. Secure your pages so you're not fussing with them too much. And the first thing I'm going to prompt is a bit of frottage. So frottage is taking impressions of texture from objects. And it could be anything. Like this is when you become a bit of a texture explorer and you find some things that yeah, can build some texture for you. So this is the top of my watercolor pen, and I'm going to place it under the page, and then I'm going to use my pencil. So you want a pencil, colorful pencil, graphite pencil. You can use charcoal, you can use soft pastel, oil pastel. They just have a different effect, and let me show you what I mean. They just look different. So this is more about you choosing textures that you like while revealing textures that are underneath. I'm enjoying this because for me it's like each one of these little circles could be like a little moment, a little window into a world. It could be a place to store my gratitude discoveries. And if you're interested in frottage, I have a whole series on different ways to kind of explore frottage on my channel, and I'll link it. And now I'm going to let the pattern actually shift a little bit. Again, noticing if you're rushing. There's nowhere to go and there's nowhere to be. As you're working, you might start to find some inspiration around you of textures. I mean, sometimes the floor has interesting textures, and the floor literally holds you up. The walls also have texture, another thing that creates a structure around you so that you can live out your life protected. These are things to be mindful of. Even the surface that you are on right now holds you, holds your work, holds your, or whatever. It could be on your kitchen table. So just like sensing into that space of the exploration too, like going beyond just what we're doing, but what is below that, what supports that. You could even go all the way down into the earth. And your body is supporting you right now. Your spine, maybe a chair, maybe your feet, all these things that have been holding you, carrying you. Okay, so that's a little bit of playing with mark making. And I'm going to give you one more before we move on to the next topic. So again, you can choose a random page. And you know, if things are coming up and you want to document them and journal, you can write them down and then pop them into the pockets. Okay, so for this one, let's pick a double page. And we're going to go through an expanding heart process. Again, I've got a longer video on this on my YouTube. I can link to that too. But we can just do it now together. So picking a starting place, and we're going to draw a expanding heart, meaning that we're going to follow the outline of a heart until we reach the very edge of the page. And all you have to do, it's just be here. It doesn't have to look good. We're just going to follow the line as it's expanding. And with that, follow our breath. So let's begin. Maybe taking a new breath in. And a new breath out. Following the line. Slowly making your way around, maybe even close your eyes. And just trust that the lines will make themselves. And just connect to your heart for a moment. That beautiful heart that pumps all the blood through your body, that muscle. A place where we store both love and pain, sorrow, grief. A heart that beats. Keeps us alive. Maybe imagining your heart space even expanding. Expanding beyond. Maybe with love. Maybe send that to someone. Maybe send it to you. Maybe you need a bit more love. And when you find yourself at the edges, just letting yourself kind of pause for a moment. Maybe put hands on the page. Just witness this expanding heart. Maybe even imagining this as a symbol across your chest. These vibrations being sent out. And then there's an extra creative prompt here, is to keep going. You could add in some writing in the expansion of each of these, maybe around things that are important to you, things that you love. And that could be as simple as like, I love my morning coffee. It could be like, I love my bed. I'm grateful for that. Think really small, like all these things that give you a little heartburst in the day. And you could also leave it and do nothing. But I leave it to you to find a way to either keep working with it if you want to, or to let it go. I am going to follow the prompt I said, and I am actually going to map out all those things that I love. And I will fast forward this part of the video. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to do whatever you want to do in that space. And now we're going to move on to one last prompt for this video. And this one is going to be tackling a bit of collage. So find a new space. I think I'm going to work on the back of this. I kind of love that there's already was kind of seeping through the kind of skin of the paper. So this time we're going to explore collage, and collage can be quite complex, so give yourself a lot of time for this, but also try not to overthink it. I think we can do a lot of overthinking of collage when really it's all collage wants is for you to just intuitively pull some things together. So around the theme of gratitude, the prompt is to create a collage in response to how gratitude kind of feels to you. And when I say feel, it could be, you know, a place that feels very warm and tender and kind and compassionate and expansive. It could be a color that really warms you and makes you feel like just so taken care of. And it could be a texture, it could be how that might feel. So we're moving beyond the mind definition of gratitude and starting to feel it out, and we don't need to know the answer to that. So grab some things, scurry around your space and just see what you can find. It doesn't have to make sense. It might make sense later, but yeah, give yourself some time to create a response, a collage response. And so collage is literally cutting up things, tearing up things, creating shapes, and bringing them together onto a page and sticking them down. So let's have a go. Working a bit more intuitively. So first, like being a bit of a bowerbird and just bringing together some bits and pieces. And you're welcome to incorporate some of the other techniques that we've been over into this as well. But if collage feels like it's already quite a big thing for you to explore, and bringing in other techniques feels like a bit overwhelming, then trust you, always trust you, that you know what's best for you. And so we can be tearing, yeah, makes all these beautiful edges. A whole page just dedicated to a feeling, a sense of it. How does gratitude feel? What should be there and what should not be there? Like, what is the essence of it? And if you need to do like a little bit of writing, you can do that too. But when you're starting to feel like, okay, I'm getting into this sense of this, you can start sort of gluing things down. You could return to this prompt again and again and just see, you know, how things change. And you might take this very literally too. Like there's space within this prompt to go literal and say it feels like this, it looks like this, it's a word, it's a place, it's a person, it's an activity. It could also just not have any of that behind it. It could be like, today, this is what it looks like. I love these little birds. I don't know if they really fit. They might go somewhere else though. And if the feeling of gratitude, kind of coming back to the start of the video, feels challenging, then just make a page that kind of like could hold that for you, a space that could be aiming or pushing towards, or kind of creating a bit of a pathway to what that could look like for you. So if that feels really hard, it could be more that the question is, what could it look like? What would it feel like? It's crazy that I'm finding all these things that say love. I think it feels very sparkly to me, and I want to add in some sparkles. And I'm going to stitch them in. Again, it doesn't have to look like anything. What if you could just let yourself explore? A page of potential gratitude, a page of kindness, a page of a place to rest or expand, a page of color for the sake of color, a page of texture, a page of potential. What if there were no wrong answers? What if you could let yourself off the hook? Whatever hook that is. What if what you are creating is more than what it seems? And it's just a symbol, a bridge between the outer world and your inner world. And what if there is nothing to be fixed? What if all you need to do is just let go and let be? And knowing whatever it is for you that's coming up in this moment is something for you to explore. It could be a message. And if anything's coming up that feels really intense, just giving yourself some space to let go of that. Let it be. Let it breathe. Maybe find something that feels really good for you right now. And that could just be breathing, giving yourself a hug, taking a break, giving yourself exactly what you need, and no less. And so wherever you are right now, there's an invitation to keep going or to stop, to pause, to do whatever you need. And to just give yourself a moment to look back over all the things that you've created, all the ways that you've explored. We've been through making pockets, mark making, slow stitching, just playing with lines and words, and then responding with collage, and without too much of a plan, but just giving ourselves space to explore that through the theme of gratitude. So thank you for participating in this and having a look at it. I hope your book becomes a really nice place to dip into, and a place to store, contain, and cultivate more gratitude in your life, or whatever you call it, whatever you think is the right term for that. And over at my website, I have a blog that has 20 prompts, 20 creative prompts for exploring gratitude. Do you need 20? I don't know. But it's more that there might be a couple in there that really speak to you. So I'll put that in the caption. And good luck with your gratitude and your altered book processes.